I know you're involved with this recent Citizens Court of India thing, and I was watching a few of the footage with regards to the SSR case. I don't watch a lot of Hindi movies. Prior to SSR's death, I had not even heard his name that many times. I don't know much about this. So, can you tell me what is surrounding his death?
For sure, man. Like from the amount that I've looked into it, so I'm not like a, you can say, a new entrant to researching this, because right when it had happened itself, I had been on a couple of big YouTube channels who were talking about this, and I put my knowledge about international pedophile rings and Satanism and all of that to infuse that into the conversation out here, to show them that like this stuff doesn't just, it's not limited to our country and certain Bollywood people and all of that being involved, but it expands much larger throughout the world, with all of these international scandals and the evidence of that coming out. So if you just look into this, right, like you'll find a lot of evidence to basically like convince yourself that he was indeed murdered, and it seems to be a case where there was an element of child trafficking involved. So you have to kind of go through the evidence that's presented over there. So our lawyers did a lot of work over 1-2 months. They basically have been collecting a lot of evidence. I helped them out with some of it. There have been other people who were helping them out with evidence as well. The one thing I found the most convincing is the fact that Sushant was maintaining a diary. Like he would write in there, over there, basically like whatever he's learning about, and he has started his research into figuring these things out just like we did. So in his diaries, like he basically exposed everything he knew about Bollywood and the murders that have happened, like Sri Devi's murder, Divya Bharati's murder. Like he's written extensively about that. He's also mentioned in his diary about the threats he's got from people like Aditya Thackeray and others in the industry who were threatening him to stop researching the kind of things he was looking into. Otherwise, like he would have consequences for his life. And in his diaries also, funnily enough, like the part which like changed my mind a lot is that he was talking about COVID and the New World Order and Bill Gates and all of that. Like, even that is there. He's also talking about Aadhaar being a surveillance tool in order to really in order for the government to control people and the deep state to control people. So Sushant was clearly like quite tapped in, and if you just see the evidence of the diaries itself, like you have to follow this person called Deepthi Pinnati. We had her on for like an interview on the second day with our lawyer, and she's the person who basically was investigating Sridevi's murder in the past. She'd filed cases in the High Court and Supreme Court as well about that, and she eventually started looking into the Sushant case, and she said she had some contacts in Bollywood and a team that she'd built. So they landed up intercepting his hard drive where he was maintaining like encrypted notes of everything that he was going through, and then they landed up decoding the drives and putting that information out. So she has like 50 or 60 episodes where she's like part by part gone through everything that Sushant was writing over there, and a lot of the things that he's mentioned can be cross corroborated. Like if he's writing about something, then you can find supporting media articles and stuff around that time to confirm what he's writing about. So that's one thing. I knew another person in this case as well, whose boyfriend was actually training with Tiger Shroff, and she personally like made me hear certain things which were convincing to me that he was murdered. Like uh, this chick basically got a call from her boyfriend at 9 o'clock in the morning, wherein he was telling her that they killed Sushant and stuff. And later on in the day, when she called him again, he basically flipped his story, and she spotted him like going out together in the car with Tiger Shroff's mom, I think she said. And then he's totally flipped the story, and he was like, "No, they did, like, it was a suicide, and what are you talking about?" kind of thing. And she made me hear the voice note where she confronted her boyfriend later, and he basically kind of accepted that he called her in the morning and told her that. So yeah, I mean, like I've come across different things when I've looked into the evidence, which convinced me that it was a murder. And his manager, like his ex-manager Disha Salian, she had actually encountered this entire child sex trafficking side of Bollywood, where she'd seen young kids being abused by some people who are part of the industry, and they killed her first, and then they landed up killing Sushant in the sequence, because Sushant apparently was planning to come out and expose whatever Disha had figured out before she died. So yeah, it's a big mess, to be honest. And like if you research a lot of Hollywood celebrities as well and what's happened to them when they've tried to expose pedophilia and things like that, it's kind of a similar blueprint that went on in this case. And I just wonder like the kind of impact Sushant could have made if he was alive and he actually like went on with these things. And it would have got so much traction, especially with him talking about the vaccines and the new world order and COVID and Bill Gates and all of that. Like that would, I mean, like, it's kind of frustrating. Like the few people who I look at and think, fuck, if this guy was alive, he could have made such a big impact. Like they'll end up being killed somehow. Like, even Rajiv Dixit or even Sushant for that matter. So yeah, that's just a summary. Like there's a lot to dig into over there. There's hours of content you can watch. I can give recommendations for people who I find credible. The problem I had with this entire space in the beginning is that it just seemed to be surrounded by a lot of right wing like BJP people who were using that as fuel to bash Congress in some way and bash the Thakres and all. So I was put off in the beginning because there were some people who made really outlandish, egregious claims as well. Like, the kind of quacky side of like Indian people who are looking into this. So if you see the West, like, people come up with these really absurd theories that, oh, this guy's actually alive, even when he's dead, and like without any evidence whatsoever. So there's this one guy, I think Vibhor Anand, he claims like he's a lawyer and he gained a lot of traction in the entire Sushant movement, and I was following him for a long time. And then eventually, like he just went off the rails. He started saying shit like Sushant is alive and he's going to come like anytime soon and give the evidence that he's alive. And it's the same kind of thing with all of these wacky like paranoid schizo kind of people. They keep saying it's gonna happen, and then it never really happened, and then they change the date or they change the story or something. So because of people like that, I did get a bit put off. But then when I found like this is one channel called Candid Meena, and then this chick I mentioned, Deepthi Pinnati, like I found them to be quite credible because they didn't seem to be pushing this narrative that's supporting the BJP and stuff. They were just interested in revealing like whatever had been put out and even going against the BJP if like the evidence was there, which there is. I mean, if you research Sushant's drive, like he's gone after many BJP ministers and all as well. So yeah, I think that's a decent summary, and people can look into these sources if they want to dig into it more. And even the entire Citizens Court thing, like the videos that were collected by lawyers that were shown over there are very convincing itself, because like there are statements from ex ministers and MLAs who are talking about the children and the Thakres and everything quite openly. And even surrounding the murder, there's a lot of evidence up around the timing and like the photographic evidence and all of that. So you really have to dig into it to kind of make your mind up either way. But I'm pretty much convinced looking at all of this that it was a hit for sure.
That's crazy, dude. Because up until this conversation, I was like convinced that it was just a suicide and all these so-called SSR warriors are a bunch of retards. I'm sure many of them are.
Many of them are. That's the thing. Like many of them are, but then you have to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's the mistake a lot of people make that I've seen. Yeah.
The reason why I think a lot of laymen like myself, a lot of rational thinkers like myself are put off by this SSR case is because of the behavior of these so-called SSR warriors. But then we
Hmm.
have to be more nuanced and we have to attempt to find the truth. And I'm
See,
really
out
glad.
here you're not gonna get the intellectual rigor that you're expecting. So you really have to just go into things and look for the evidence without getting too consumed by people's narratives, or if something about their mindset or their view on different issues puts you off. Like you have to try and put all of that aside as a good researcher and just look at what the evidence is trying to tell you. Because I mean, like, you can see it myself, right? With my example, I mean, if I just threw it out because of the kind of factors that I mentioned, then I wouldn't really be able to, like, I would be dismissing the truth in some sense. If I just use my knee jerk reactions and being like annoyed and like really put off by these people, then I wouldn't really pursue it and get to the kind of stuff that I figured out later on. So I feel like, yeah, the discernment thing is so crucial, man. Like, and especially like being born where we are in this kind of culture and landscape, like it makes it all the more harder. But then like it rewards you with the gold truth in the end if you just keep going at it and keep pursuing it.